All right. Good evening, everyone who has joined in from different part of the country and the world. Today, we are in here to learn from one of the best book reviewers I know, and I've been privileged to read his book reviews over the course of the entire year. That was 2022. So I had a personal, selfish reason to organize this session. I am scared of writing a book review. As much as I did a public commitment that I will start publishing a book review, and that public commitment was delivered to Anshuman itself, I still could not get myself moving beyond those hesitation, beyond feeling the imposter. Like one of my favorite books is Thinking Fast and Slow, and that's Daniel Kahneman's work of life. And I've always felt, who am I to compare someone else's work of life? And I do believe Anxious People is another book, amazing book of mine. I loved it. It's a work of Frederick Backman. It took him perhaps a year to write it. I've also felt that in spite of loving that book so much, I've still not been able to say one of my best books of the year, even on social media, anywhere else. So I had a personal reason to get Anshuman to help me out. And that's when I thought, why not get Anshuman to deliver a session for my community of readers? And again, that's when it struck me that why not open it for the worldwide, and anyone who wants to get into book reviews, an avid reader, a book lover, a writer, and someone who takes recommendations from near and dear ones. Why not get them all on board into one session on a nice cozy Sunday evening and learn from the best in there? So that's what brings us all over here. So before we get started and before I introduce Anshuman, just few couple of ground rules. Keep yourself on mute as much as you can, because it will allow an uninterrupted flow of the session. Keep your attention on the session. You have joined in for a particular reason. So allow all your distraction and noise-making devices a little bit away. Keep your attention on the session. Do make notes, because trying to keep things here will make you forget. If you etch it on a new paper and on a notebook, it will remain. And of course, we have to apply what we're learning. Leverage the chat and reaction emojis like anything. So when you've been asked to put on your chat, what is the thing that gets you going, or any question, leverage the chat and put it there. And of course, use the reaction emojis. If something has made you laugh, definitely laugh digitally. That's said and done. I am Aniket. I am a content creator in a part-time role, and I'm a full-time IT guy. I work at Barclays, and I run a passion project called Readers, through which I help people to build a daily reading habit. So I've been able to help 243 people in the last 3.5 years through my cohort-based course, and through which I've been able to build a community of readers, where readers spelling has a small twist, which is not ERS, it's ARS. So that's me. Let me introduce you to our keynote speaker today. So Anshuman is a quality and process transformation professional with a diverse experience across multiple industries, including banking, professional services, information technology, manufacturing, and consulting. Very well experienced. He was selected a fellow of American Society of Quality, ASQ, in 2013. Over the last decade, Anshuman has led initiatives leading to over $250 million of benefits. He's passionate about composite benefits around revenue, cost, customers, and employees. Anshuman has taught principles, methods, and tools for quality to over 10,000 professionals and over 1,000 students, and is committed to continuing doing so. As a service to society, Anshuman coaches for career growth. He's part of LinkedIn Top Voice 2022 and a LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program, where he shares content to manage better and make quality a priority. He's currently head of delivery excellence with DXC Technology, where he manages a global team to help DXC deliver its promises to customers. He lives with his family in Bangalore. He's an aspiring minimalist, a passion about personal productivity, And as a hobby, he runs a podcast and YouTube channel focused on managing better. You can definitely check out more on his website, which I'll put on the chat, managebetter.in. With a big round of applause, Digital One, please help me welcome Anshuman onto the digital stage.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Quick camera and mic check. I can't, of course, look better than this, but I might be able to sound better if you tell me that you can't hear me well. But looks like you can. So firstly, of course, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Aniket, for this invite. A strange one, because when I started writing book reviews, which is quite an accident, I never imagined that somebody will actually consider me as a for such kind of a knowledge sharing session. But this is how life is. You start something and it goes somewhere, and then you, after some time, realize that you have something to share. So thanks for that, and thank you very much to the audience. Quite a few people I noticed. Connie joined from the US. I noticed Anita from Malaysia, and quite a few others also from India. I'm sure as the session progresses, people might. Today's Sunday, so people might actually join in as we speak. So the one line or one sentence brief that Aniket gave me is that he wanted me to speak about how do I write book reviews and how have I managed to write for more than 14 months running now, 13 months or so, right? And every week I churn out one, which of course means that most of the time I'm reading a book every week to be able to write a review every week, right? So the first secret I can share is that you have to consume to be able to create. If you can't consume, if you don't consume, you will not be able to create, because there won't be any content for you to share. So rule number one or insight number one is in whatever area you are, if you don't consume, you can't create. Right? So it's as simple as that. The same holds true for books as well. So since I read a lot, and I will confess, of course, that I don't read every book from front to or cover to cover. There are some books I skim. There are some books I don't finish, but the most are where I actually finish. And since I'm a quality professional in lean thinking point of view, the throughput may appear to be one a week, but I'm actually reading several books at a time. So the cycle time is significantly higher. But that's because I'm reading like multiple books at a time. So for example, right next to my desk right now is this set, of the other way around, this set that I'm reading. And Vinod, who's also in the session, is by my bedside. So that book is also, there are 4 books therefore that I'm reading, and there is one on Kindle as well. So now this is something I don't advise to people, because you may not be able to pull off reading multiple books at the same time, and that's not an advice I give, but it's been one hidden strength for me. Govindraj, if you can go on mute. Yeah, okay, thank you. Like Aniket said, it will help unless you have a question or want to raise a point, please stay on mute, helps everyone. So, okay, so back to this. So consume to be able to create. The second insight I wanted to bring is why the why part, right? So why do you want to write a book review? Since this session is more focused on book reviews, why do you want to write it? Right? There are some commercial aspects also. People can make a living out of writing book reviews by multiple ways. Either they can publish them in published journals. They could be doing video reviews, which can lead to book sales. And if you have an affiliate link, you can actually make money out of that. Assuming that I am reviewing a book, I put it on YouTube and I put a Amazon or any other affiliate link, and anybody who buys from there, I get a small percentage from that. That's called affiliate links, and many people do that. I don't. I don't do that for multiple reasons, but that's that's a why, right? Many people have that why. Uh, and there could be other reasons also. Some people are actually writers also, right? So they enjoy writing, and they enjoy writing about a book. It improves their craft of the writing craft, right? And there could be more reasons, but everybody who writes a book review on a consistent basis, on a regular basis, needs a why. If you don't have a why, you will stop at 1, 2, or maybe 3, or you may not even start. One of the reasons why you are not able to start is because your mind is not clear about what is your why do you want to do this. So, and I'm not suggesting that you have a very noble, save the world kind of a why. You can have a very simple why. For example, my why was that it helped me read better. So because when I was making my notes, sometimes mental, sometimes digital, sometimes with pen and paper, I was able to read better. And therefore I thought, oh, these notes are anyway there. Why don't I put them together into some kind of thing? And maybe some other person can benefit. Those people who are on fence whether I should read this book or not might be able to, um, you know, learn something from it. But my primary reason was for myself, right? So I was writing the book review for myself, at least initially. And initially, I did publish a couple of video book reviews, then a few short reviews. And then there was one review which completely blew my mind as well as many other people's mind. And that got me hooked on. The book was Mark Manson's book, and I will show the review in a while. That review actually was loved by everybody on LinkedIn. A lot of love it got, and that got me hooked on that. And this was, I think, November of 2021 or December, around that time. So that got me hooked on, and I said, look, I think I have a why. I'm reading a book. I'm then and to be on full confession, transparency mode, I actually listen to more books than I read, right? So that's a habit in the last 2-3 years. So on Audible, so I do listen to books more than I read, because I've been able to club my walking with my listening. But what I do is that when I come back, if I have a physical copy of that book, which is mostly the case, I actually read some paragraphs from the book again, because that's how I internalize the book. So the why part is extremely important. Then, of course, you need a process to put it together, because obviously without the process, you cannot churn out a review on a week-to-week basis. So I think at around 50 odd reviews, maybe a little more, less. I haven't kept count, but recently I actually put together a web page with all the links, as many as I could find. I don't think it is a complete list, but it is about 80-90% there. So there might be some missing here and there. And that also was on request from some of the readers who felt that they wanted to read my previous reviews. And in that process, I was reading my previous reviews, and I definitely felt that my craft has improved. So what I write today, how I write today, is significantly better than how I started off. And the time and effort required also is significantly lesser. So the bottom line is that as a quality professional, I can share that if you keep the process going, you will definitely be able to improve the process as well. So 3 things: consume, find your why, find a process. These are the 3 things if you want to carry from this session. If you want to leave the session now, you can leave also. So these are the 3 most important, I would say, lessons. The 4th one is those who are on the fence, those who want to write, are not very clear how to write, what to write, when to write, where to post, how to write. Just write. This is the mantra for everything in life. If you want to start, please start. Don't wait for that world-class opportunity, or when the stars will align, when I will be happy, when I will make this much money, when I will have 10 books, when I will have a proper rule sheet, when I have the Schaeffer pen that I've been thinking of buying. And I've heard all kinds of excuses, right? So which only means, all this means that you actually are not committed to writing, right? So it is not in your mind. You haven't found the why, and therefore your mind is tricking you into multiple reasons, and the only way you can get out of it is to write your first one. It can be total trash, it can be crap, whatever it is. Don't worry, right? uh, Social media, particularly LinkedIn, has given us the advantage that, you know, if you post something and people don't like, they just don't like, that's all. But it stays there, right? So uh, nobody's coming to your house and, you know, stoning it, or catching you in the on the road and abusing you, right? So nothing of that will happen, unless of course you write something like that, which you will deserve. So please start, right? So that is the fourth one that I can mention. With that, I think, let me try and share. So Aniket bullied me into preparing some slides, right? So I also want to confess that I absolutely don't like making slides, and by the quality of my slides, you will realize why. Because unlike my reviews, these slides are total crap. But what to do, right? When the organizer bullies you, you listen. Now I'm struggling to share. Okay, share screen. Uh, so let me know when you can see. I am sure you can now. But now I can't see the audience. Oh, I can now. Okay, on the side. Okay, fair enough. Okay. Simple one: the why, what, and how of writing book review, right? So, of course, like I said, why is important, but the what and how is also equally important, because why will get you started. This is what I say about motivation, right? Motivation is important, right? Many people say that, you know, motivation is not important, but it is important to get you started. It will help you put on the shoe, but your system and your process will help you keep going, right? So you cannot write a review a week for 1 year unless you have a system or a process. So that is the what and how. The why will get you certainly started. Maybe some of you after this session today, if you feel motivated enough, or you feel if this, you know, guy can do it, we can do it better. I'm sure some of you will feel that way, and please be my guest. Write your first one, right? I'm happy to take any abuse from you. If you, the outcome is that you can write your first uh, review, or if you have written earlier but have stopped for some reason, to start writing again. Okay. So there are some, Aniket and I had discussed some option, you know, questions, and many of you had submitted question as well. So we kind of bucketed those questions. This may not be an exhaustive list because we have tried to bucket the questions into how we thought. But during the session, if you towards the end, if you feel that your question has not been answered, or I have not touched upon that topic, please bring it up, right? So first of all, how can I overcome imposter syndrome, which stops me from writing a book, right? So this one I spoke about a little bit, that, you know, and Aniket started with this, that, you know, who am I to write a review, and, you know, those kind of feelings you will have. Daniel Kahneman is a Nobel Prize winner, you know, what will I do to his book, right? But Daniel Kahneman is not going to read your review, right? So please be assured, you know. So he's not going to mind a bad review, even if you write have grammatical mistakes. It is okay, right? In all my reviews that I have written, only Indestructible Nereal, Susan Cain for Bittersweet, and Ankur Warikoo for his books. These are the people who have uh, read and commented on what I wrote, right? So, and I have written quite a bit. So please be assured, nobody in this world is worried about your writing style, English, you know, review, non-review. You are doing this to get started, to answer your why, right? And certainly Daniel Kahneman is not reading your review. So Aniket, you can at least start. I will let Daniel know that, please be kind, right? Second question that we thought, and I'm trying to address the questions first before, because, this way, whatever questions you all had posed, this is a summarized list. I will try and answer those questions first, so that you at least feel that, this guy knows something, right? So my credibility will increase that way, and hopefully you will stay for the rest of the session. So how does writing a review changes you as a reader? So changes me as a reader if I take this question. It certainly has changed me as a reader, because initially and to be fair, for many years, actually, whenever I have been reading, I have been making some notes. So it is not new to me. Right? So it's not something that I started yesterday or last year or something. But those notes were like whatever notebook was near me. Sometimes the office notebook, sometimes some email notebook, sometimes some other notebook. I would write wherever I could, and then I over the years started writing in bullet points some notes or some key phrases that I remember, right? So but now what I do is that and I can share some secret. So I of course use Notion and WhatsApp for my notes. Earlier I used to use Google Keep, but now if I get a quick idea, I note it in Notion. I find note to myself in WhatsApp, the new feature, even better because I can record my in voice. So sometimes if I am reading something or listening to something and I am walking, I will quickly take a voice note in WhatsApp or in Notion as well. WhatsApp is even more easier than Notion. Only thing is, of course, in WhatsApp, everything is chronological. So there is no organization, whereas in Notion, you can organize. But by the time you open that particular page, you may lose that thought. So I sometimes then transfer from WhatsApp to uh, Notion, copy paste kind of thing, right? So yes, it has changed how I read a book, because when I'm reading a book now, I'm already thinking that I have to give a review of this book. So my mind is actually focused on finding nuggets that I will be able to share. Now, a hidden question in this is that, do I write a review for every book? No. There are some books that I read that I don't write a review for. For example, Bill Bryson's The Human Body. I read it recently, but I read it in parts. And I did not really think that that's a book I can review, because it's more a scientific book in plain English. So what is there for me to review in, right? Of course I can, but I realize that, for the audience I have, it may not have any appeal. So there are many such books that I read. I'm also listening to Personal MBA by Josh Kaufman these days, but I don't intend to uh, review it. There are many Audible select series that I listen to, but I don't intend to review it. I'm listening currently to Kama Sutra. So those who are interested may know that I actually read a range. And I did not find anything to review in it, because it is a treatise. It's a collection. So there is not much to review, except the fact that I was delighted to find that the book is not what many of us think. What many of us think Kama Sutra to be as a book is only 5% of the book, and only 1 or 2 chapters. And it is not in the detail that you expect or think of. It's a really well-written book on human relations, and it is quite amazing. It could be, if you have read what is the book? Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, or Why Men Lie and Women Can't Read Maps. These are, it is almost that kind of a book, right? So of course it's got a bad name for people assuming what it might have. But anyway, so that's point two, that it has changed me significantly as a reader, but it has also improved my ability to decide as to which book I will review and which I won't. And there are many. Like, I'm a avid Jeffrey Archer reader. Every book that he releases, it is pre-ordered by me. But I have never reviewed any Jeffrey Archer book. I don't intend to, because it is not review material, right? So it's not written for review. It's written for my entertainment or enjoyment, and that's it. Okay. Third area, when you are reading a particular book, how does it impact you before and after reading? So there were some questions around it, but I frankly, the review comes later, right? The impact comes first. So it's like one of my favorite books of 2022, recommended by Aniket himself, was Matthew Dick's uh, Storyworthy, right? Uh, and as I listened to it. I have not read it. I've listened to the audio version, and I listened many of the sections repeatedly, or repeated the sections, and it was quite fascinating. But many of those things, when I wrote the review, I could not include. So because they were deep personal lessons, like the journal, like how to find a 5-second rule in those books. What do I write about it, right? I could not review it properly. So sometimes that happens, right? So I would say um, the impact is before you uh, actually write the review. How can you remember more from all the books you have read by writing a book review? Oh, absolutely. You remember a lot more because you are writing. So think of it scientifically as well. You are engaging multiple faculties. When you're reading, you are only reading or listening, right? So your brain is recording, but your brain has to now rewind and bring forth some of the notes, mental notes that you had made, or physical notes that you had made. So it is doing going through that again. In that process, some ideas are reinforced. Then you're writing it, then you're editing it, then you are posting it. You may be writing with hand. Some of you may have that habit still of writing with hand and then typing and editing and all. So you are repeating the same information multiple times. So obviously, you will remember more. And I'm not saying that this is a memory exam, but if you remember one or two or three ideas from every book, that is quite okay. Like I had not thought of sharing my quick review of Matthew Dick's story Worthy, but I just did, right? And that's out of memory because I remember the book quite well. Why should one write a book review and share it on social media? So I think the hidden question is not the first part. I have already answered. Why should you write? Because that's a unique why. You have your own why. I don't know your why. My why I have shared with you that I was always quite keen on talking about books that I was reading, and social media, particularly LinkedIn, offered me that platform to be able to express. So my why was very simple. I even now and will always write for myself. If some people like it, fantastic. If some people don't, that's okay. Right. So, and there have been people who've replied saying that they expected more in that, or I didn't highlight some aspects, or I highlighted the wrong aspects of that book. I respect all of that, but that's about it. That's what I liked and that's what I shared. Okay. So with that, this is something I spoke about in the beginning, so I will skip this. Yeah, so this was the book that I mentioned, that Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. And this was the book which is now at 48,000 views and 450 likes. This was, I think, a year into end of 2021. So not a very wild number, but because some of my posts have gone up to 500K as well, 500,000 number. But for a book, I think it did really well because each of my book reviews are about just about the limit of LinkedIn, which is 3,000 characters. So I have to always edit to remove some characters, and it always reaches that one or two characters less than the 3,000. So it is a long review. Of course, some people write even longer in newsletters because there is no book limit in newsletters, but that's another topic. I did mention this helps in learning and using what you read, and of course refines your writing ability. My writing ability is significantly better today because I've been doing this every week for last 13-14 months. So you keep doing it, so anything for 50 iterations, it will improve. Right? So the effort and time taken is also lesser because my mind is already capturing now, but you will not start that way, but you will get there. Right? So sharing takes the world forward. I totally believe in this, that if you are reading and keeping it to yourself, big deal. Nothing changes in the world. But if you share, you might learn from somebody else's perspective. You might learn, somebody else might pick up some thread. Like Niket had reviewed Matthew Dick's book. I had no clue about who Matthew Dick was, right? So this was the first time I had heard the name. Even though he writes other books, I had never heard of his name. And when I read, I said, "Oh my God, this is a gold mine." And I've today downloaded his other book about 22 ways to keep yourself motivated. So that's how the world goes forward, right? So we learn from each other, and I'm sure people will learn from you. My why, I read better when I know I have to write. That's a little modified why now, because initially it started like an accident where I said, oh, I have the notes, why don't I put it together? Okay. Some questions are coming in, but let me quickly see. Okay. No, I don't think there are questions.
No, there are no questions currently.
Okay, fair enough. And I can't even see the time, so we are at 37:33. Okay. Okay. What to write, right? So, like I said, you can write professional reviews, published and paid. I don't do that. I don't intend to, but some of you could try that. There are, but you will have to start somewhere, right? So you will not get paid from day one, unless you are an author yourself, and then you are reviewing somebody else's books or something. That's a different story. But apart from, I think, Vinod, who's in the call, I don't expect many of you to be authors. If you are, my apologies, but you get my point, right? So unless you are already an established name, you won't get paid for publishing. And so therefore, the only journey is that you start your journey. If you want to get into that category, then you have to get better at your craft, and one day you will get paid. But what my category is, the amateur reviews for the love of books and writing. How long is a question I get, and what formats? What format is the question that many of you actually asked in your questions as well. So I'll cover that. But 500 words, which is approximately 3,000 characters that LinkedIn allows in a post, is good. But assuming, I'll give you a tip, maybe a pro tip, that if you can't edit it to 3,000 characters, and if you don't want to edit, and you have written a long one, put it as a newsletter, right? Newsletters are open to most people now on LinkedIn, so you can easily get your newsletter started, and you can put it as a newsletter, right? Sometimes it is a challenge to edit, even for me after so much practice. It is a challenge to edit it to 3,000 characters. So, but I have found ways. But some people fall in love with what they have written, so they don't want to edit it or delete something. I am quite merciless in that, so I can delete a well-written paragraph without any second thought. But that's because my goal is bigger. My goal is to put out that review every Monday, or I think I've missed two. I might miss tomorrow's post, but I'll make a post out of this, right? So it will still be about book reviews. And then format, right? So this format, I deliberately kept this format. So this is a book review, which, why did I change screen? Yeah, so this is a book review where I found that, this is, I think, The Compounding Habit, or by Darren Hardy. And I accidentally landed on this book on Audible, and found it fascinating. It is all the simple productivity hacks that you listen to, the reasons and how you can implement it. And I did not find any other way or to do justice to this book by writing it in 20 points. This is a format I don't normally use. I don't normally use 20 points or 10 points. I usually write in paragraph style, but this was one deviation that I made, and I liked it. And this is one of my most, after the Mark Manson book, this is probably the second most liked review till date. So, and one advantage in LinkedIn, on LinkedIn, is that, because of the ability for people to discover your content even later, I even today get some likes for posts written a year ago, or more than that. So this was a little bit on what to write. The other formats, of course, like I said, paragraph style. You can record a 1-minute video, but since this episode or this session of our talk is about writing, I will stick to writing. But 10 points or 5 key points. Some books I have written in parts, like the first part 1, talks about the courage to be disliked. For example, that was a fascinating book, and I wrote the review in parts, so 2 or 3 parts. So you will get to that habit, but the bottom line is that you have to start. Right? So there is no denying that. Oh yeah, the courage to dislike, to be disliked is here. This one, I think I took this screenshot only yesterday. So it is at about 25,000 views, which is not very high, but compared to some posts, but for a book post, it is quite high. Like I said, critical step, read. You have to consume to create. Read with the writer's mind. This is extremely important. So, which I explained, that reading with the writer's mind is extremely important, and that's how you start to internalize this. And I spoke about this mentally. Yeah, this is a question that I ask very often as I listen to or read the book. What was the core point in the last 5, 10, 15 minutes or 2, 3, 5 pages that I have read? Is there something that I can imprint in my brain? Sometimes it sticks out, sometimes you have to think about it, right? So it's very easy to say that if it is really a core point, it will stick out, right? Sometimes it doesn't. Right? So you have to really think. For example, in this book itself, The Courage to be Disliked, the book actually doesn't talk to you about being disliked. It is all it is saying is that if you evolve yourself to that level that you are okay being disliked, then you have evolved. It is not saying that you should be disliked, which can be misunderstood, but that takes a little time for you to get, because the book doesn't talk about liking, disliking and other things, all that. It doesn't talk about courage also. It is an interpretation that you make. The book's core message is that every problem, everything in life is about interrelationships or communication and interrelation. That's the core message, that everything has a past, there is some interrelationship, and if you can work on that, you can improve everything. This is Elderian philosophy, who was a contemporary of Hume and other popular psychologists. But you have to really ask yourself, what did I learn from this book, to be able to grab that. So yeah, so these were some key points that I thought I'll make, but just 1 minute. I think I by mistake close this. You can't see the screen, right? No.
No, we cannot see it.
Okay, I think I closed the window. So I'll give these slides to Aniket for distribution, but this second link is the link of most of the reviews that I have done. All links are for LinkedIn only. And if you want to follow me or connect, or let me know that you attended this session, then this is my link. And I currently put my Manage Better content more on YouTube, which is basically interviews and short videos on quality and innovation and other topics. But for this year, there is very sincere effort that I should be able to convert some of my reviews into video reviews. There are 3, 4. I think Execution is there, Indistractable is there, and 1 or 2 more are there, but not many. Okay, with that, I will end the slide part, which is the result of the bullying that Aniket did. Aniket, we can now take the questions that you received, and or the questions that can be asked now itself, because that I think is the main value of this session.
How much time you really take to okay, I understood that you are reading weekly 1 book, but how much time generally you take to put it into the notes or put it into the writing? Generally, total?
I don't know who's asking the question.
Santosh.
Santosh, okay. So I make the notes while I am reading, right? So it is not, I would say, some separate time, but compiling the notes and writing the review, putting a story, putting some structure, because some books, for example, I put a story as well. And because I feel that my story or a story I share will actually accentuate the review and connect the reader to the review. So that is done, but that takes maybe an hour now, but it used to take 2, 3 hours. It used to take sometimes even longer when I started. Now it takes maybe 1 hour, maybe 1.5 hours, sometimes lesser. But don't go by that estimate. It can take half a day to write a very well written post. I would say that it could take half a day.
Anshuman, I will first take the questions that were asked when people were registering for this. And one of the common traits of the question that are coming might seem like a bouncer of a question, but I'll still pose it across. How to make sure when we write and express few contents of the book which sound interesting does not lead to the breach of copyright? Another question on the same line. What are the copyright issues you think to keep in mind while writing book reviews?
So as long as you don't copy sections in total, right, there is no breach, right? Secondly, an author is dying for these reviews, man. Don't worry, right? So most authors I know, they are dying for this because this is how their book sells, right? Or how else, will the book sell? They cannot. Everybody has limited money to spend on marketing. Everybody is not Ankur Warikoo, or Gary Vee or others, right? So this is one of the legitimate ways in which it sells. But legally answering your question, there is no breach as long as you don't pick up sections in total and replicate. For example, even in when songs are played, actually it is always a breach of contract. Right? So you cannot be playing public songs publicly, but up to 30 seconds you can. Right? So even in that there are ways. So there is, I see Santosh's point. Even in book quotes are not copyright. No. So there is no. As long as you quote the book and quote the author, nobody is going to mind. Right. And so, see, this is social media. If you run into any trouble, just delete the post, man. But I am absolutely sure there is no worry about that. Don't worry.
Okay, I'm gonna put spotlight on Sadanand. He has raised his hand for a while. So Sadanand, you can raise a question. I'll put.
Okay. My question is, what should the tone of your review? So I may have specific or strong thought about particular book, right? Or my own opinion, which is very strong in nature. Is it okay to put it in review, or should I keep my tone all the time diplomatic?
So if you keep it diplomatic, you will lose your audience because your audience is coming to you for an opinion, right? So that is one. Two, if I really don't like a book, I don't write the review. I have already not liked the book. Why should I now waste my own time to write a review further? Because if you remember, my why was I am writing for myself. I am not writing to make money. I am not writing to publish anywhere. Because my primary purpose is to write for myself, I am not going to waste any more time. In fact, I will not complete that book also, but I will not waste any more time. But if you are a reviewer for money or for purpose or for profession, then you might have to write, which I agree, but I am probably not qualified to answer that. I would refrain from writing about a book that I did not like. And I would suggest that if you are starting, please don't write about a book that you did not like. In fact, why did you even finish the book when you did not like it? Right? So, but if you liked it, chances are you will be positive about that book, right? I have written for some reviews, I have written parts that there was something about the book that I did not like, or it could be improved. That I have done, but that you can do only after you have some credibility and you have established yourself. So no, don't start with that. I would strongly recommend, right? Avoid trouble.
Thanks, Anshuman.
I'll put now Funny on the spotlight to ask his question. So,
hey Anshuman, good evening. Thanks for all the inputs. I made a note of it. And one question I would like to ask is, so should we be giving an opinion? I mean, even if you like the book, would you be giving more on the opinion, or will we be giving kind of gist of the important points that we made? Oh, sorry, my video is not working.
But that's okay. I got your question. So my style is I give a summary, but there are other reviewers who give an opinion. When I write in an opinionated format, I do get imposter syndrome, like Aniket mentioned in the beginning. So I have avoided that. But I do sometimes in the end write, I give 10 out of 10 or 11 out of 10 to this,
Okay.
right? So, but that is more to just because I'm not getting a closing line. So, I end it with I'm giving a 11 out of 10 or 10 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
If I'm giving
Okay.
a 6 out of 10, I don't write it. That's
Oh,
not.
okay.
So I think simple answer would be start with summarizing the book. It's easier and it is easier on you as well, easier on the reader as well. And it is probably most people's why, right? Why are you writing that book, the book review? Because you have read the book, you liked it, you are now summarizing it for others. That's all.
Yeah.
So that summary is enough for somebody who's sitting on the fence to read or not to read.
Yeah.
Assuming, let's say somebody said, oh, this is something like I've already read 4 books like this. I don't want to read a 5th one. Let me move on to something else. Like a fascinating book I read, and everything is in like a pawn shop, everything is nearby.
Yeah.
This is, probably the second most amazing book of 2022. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I struggle to review this because this book is all stories about an FBI retired director. How do you bring those stories to life in a review which is anyway 3,000 characters? So I struggled, but I did manage eventually.
Okay.
Because I did not want to put my opinion on it.
Understood.
My opinion was positive, but I still didn't want to. Okay. Thanks, Fanny, for the question. Thanks, man.
Thank you
for joining from the US.
Yeah. Anik is my good friend. He pushed me.
Now our common enemy, then, so he.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put Roshang on the spotlight. Roshang, unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hey, Anshuman, thanks for all the good points. So my question is around, so recently I have also started posting some, you could say reviews or maybe the summarizing of a chapter or maybe whatever I have liked from a book. So what has happened is when I try to write something, I end up quoting the actual part of the book. I'm more talking about the process. How do we get it into our own words? Because I think when I'm writing that summary, I think the language which the author has used is much better than what I'm going to write. So how do we get over that kind of thought process?
So firstly, Roshank, good question. And this is a common theme. Many people, and I know other people also who write reviews because, slowly it becomes kind of a community, right? So, but my response to that is that you are not adding to what the author has written, right? So you are not doing one up on this. So to get that thing out of your mind that because you are in that dilemma. I may be diluting the book by writing what I will write, or I can't get any better than this, like you said, right? But that's not your point. You are putting your views and opinions or thought process on paper. So please use your language. It is not very difficult, but of course I also use sometimes some quotations from the book, but not very often, very rarely. Very, very rarely. And in fact, I don't remember last when I used any lines straight away from the book, because I feel that people are reading it because people are reading the book review from Anshuman because they like my point of view on that particular book. So if they are reading it from Roshank, they like to read what Roshank feels about the book. What the author feels about the book is already done. Right. He or she has already done that, right? So, and get over that guilt. There is no, you are not doing any or disservice or anything at all.
Right.
Authors also love reviews.
Yep. Thanks, Anshuman. I think that sums it up. Yep.
Thank you, Rosha, for asking a wonderful question. I'll now put the spotlight to Vinod.
Yeah,
Yes.
hi Anshuman. When I tried to write a book review a couple of times, my experience was that my focus started shifting from enjoying reading the book to, like you said, finding some nuggets and taking some notes and thinking of how I'm going to communicate it in my review, right? So, and that's why then I stopped, because I wanted to read to enjoy the book, but that was not happening. And so what I tried was, okay, let me try to finish the book and then go back and find nuggets and try to write the review. But once I finished the book, I didn't feel like again going back and reading it again. So I'm not sure how to come out of this.
The best way to come out of it is don't get into it.
Okay.
Right? When I started writing, I shared the Mark Manson review that I did. I had no intention of writing the review when I was listening to that book. And then I actually bought that copy. I read it in parts, but I had no intention of writing the review. So initially, Vinod, if you are, first of all, you may not have found your why also, right? Why are you writing a review, right? So still, it's okay. You don't have to, you have many other points to share content on. And maybe book review writing is not your thing, right? But assuming that you like it and you want to build your skill set there, the first 4 or 5 reviews, don't read to write a review. Just read, like you said, you enjoy the book. After the book is done, if you feel like you want to write a review, then reread some portions. You will mentally remember that some portions were interesting. For example, last week I wrote a review on Randy Pausch's The Last Lecture, which is a fascinating book. It can make you cry. The only thing I remember about that book is that it made me cry. So I had to actually, and I had read it many years ago. I didn't reread it recently, but I felt like I wanted to write that review. There is an incident about Disney in that. There are many incidents about Disney World visit. So I had to actually locate that incident because I wanted to be accurate about that incident. So this thing will help you go back to the book. But otherwise, I would say that don't force yourself into writing a review, because then you will not enjoy the book. In any case, then the review will be not good enough. So you will neither enjoy the book nor write a good review. What's the point, right? So the return on investment for a financial person will not be worth it, right? So this will be investing in crypto. So stay away. You are a mutual fund person, so be there. Yeah. So
Thanks.
I would say 5 to 6 books. Don't put yourself under pressure. I didn't, and then slowly this habit emerged. So I've been reading voraciously since 1990. I have been writing reviews only in the last 2-3 years. So sometimes, but of course, I can thank LinkedIn for that because it gives you an audience. So that's an advantage. It wasn't there earlier.
Yeah, no, just going back to your point on finding your why, right? I mean, I was just thinking about it right now. I mean, I like to read, I always like to read books, but now since I have written a book myself, now I find myself reading to be able to write better, like you said. Right. So
it will happen. It will happen. Just don't put pressure on yourself. It will happen. It's an organic thing.
Sure.
Like I said, for me, even the best review till date that I have written was not written with the intention of writing. That's why I told Aniket also that what started as an accident has become a process. So for me, it was an accident. I discovered it. It doesn't have to be an accident for you all because you all are attending this session. But don't put any pressure. I think after 3-4 books, you will, if that why is still alive in your head, it will come out.
Sure.
But if that why dies in your head, then maybe book review writing is not your thing. Right? You have enough hobbies to keep yourself active. So focus there.
Sure. Thanks, Anshuman.
All right. I do have a question, Anshuman. No one else has a question yet. Of course, to all of you who are here, please raise your hand and ask a question. If you're not comfortable coming on video, just put your question on the chat. I do have a question, but before that, all of you who are still here, thank you so much for staying all this while. One request from me. can you just switch on a video if you can, if you possibly can, switch on a video so that I can take one screenshot, and that will allow me to share it as well into the social media post. And maybe Anshuman can also do that when he shares his book review post tomorrow.
This is your session, man. I will happily post for you. But I don't know. I am seeing full screen myself. I don't see the others. So
Okay, I'll do you a favor. Yeah, now you can see everyone.
I switched to gallery now. Okay, I'm getting used to Zoom.
Okay,
You are taking the selfie.
I'll take a screenshot. Yeah, simple process.
If you have a book around you, you can hold a book and take a selfie.
That's the second pose. For those who are familiar with me, first pose is simple. Then we do a pose and then we get a book.
Yeah, man, too much posing.
We need to have different photographs. Yeah. Okay, so let's go with Anshuman's way. Get a book right that you're reading right now and put it right beside you on your hand. So yeah, these are the two books that are going on a guided reading program right now. So I'm gonna pose with these two. And all right, yes, well done, Vinod. So all of you keep smiling. I'll take multiple pictures. So beginning with 1, 2. I'll take one more. And now you can put your book aside and use your actual chat reaction emojis in hand. How was the session? So it was great. It was okay. It was absolutely great. So you can start doing all of this. Okay. So I'm going to take a screenshot while you can also get yourself recorded. Okay. So how did you find the session? So
this is scary feedback, instant feedback.
Instant feedback. All right, taking the screenshots. Okay, so the question I do have for you, Anshuman, and could be a divisive question. I do see a lot of people put their reviews directly onto Goodreads. I personally don't like Goodreads as a website. My question to you, therefore, is why should the same review be posted across different channels? Do you think it's really a good idea to repurpose that same review and be put onto a social media platform of choice? So it LinkedIn, with Facebook, whichever the user or writer is active on.
So see, repurposing is not a bad idea in principle, right? So in fact, repurposing is the content creator's lifeline. I'm not very active on other social media, so I'm mainly active on LinkedIn, and that is quite enough for me. But there are others who are quite active on multiple media and keeping the discussion only to book reviews. Good reviews, again, I don't know why you won't like, but I do check Goodreads to discover books and also read some reviews. Those reviews are more academic in nature, right? So they have a certain place in life and they are more academic. They are really well written, some of them. And some of my reviews on Goodreads still get likes or reactions after 2 years, 3 years and all. I remember my review of Fountainhead of Ayn Rand's Fountainhead. I posted it there. And that review I can't post on LinkedIn. Right? There are some books that you can't review on LinkedIn. Can't meaning there's no point, right? You can, but there's no point. Like I gave you some examples. Like I would not post Ayn Rand's Fountainhead review, at least my version of that review, on this thing, because I did not agree with quite a few characters, like Howard Roark's character. I have a critique on him. I have a critique on the other leading, who was the actual hero. I have a different take on it. So it is actually a review. Right? It's not, my reviews on LinkedIn are more a recommendation, less a review. So the simple answer, short answer to your question is repurposing is good, but there are many books which you can't actually transfer from one medium to another, and therefore the review also cannot be transferred. Like I gave you an example. What I wrote about Fountainhead, I cannot reproduce on LinkedIn. It does not make sense. I mean, I can, but it does not make sense at all because it's actually a critique. And even though my opening line I still remember is that, if writing a review for this book feels like an achievement, imagine what writing the book might have felt like. So, those of you who have read Fountainhead would remember, and I remember the opening line because it came to me naturally. And it has been 4, 5, maybe 10 years that I read this book and wrote the review. But that opening sentence is in my mind even now, because that's how strongly I felt. But I cannot reproduce that on LinkedIn. So answer, repurpose, yes, but only for the books that you can.
Okay. One last question to you. Okay, we have just run past our time limit stipulated. One last question to you, which is 3 of your favorite books of 2022. Which were those 3 books? I'll be more than happy to pick it into my guided reading program. So what were your 3 top?
You should have told me about this, right?
This was going to be a tricky question, so left it for the last.
One is definitely this. Never Split the Difference. It's a difficult book to read. It's an easier book to listen, but it's a difficult book to read. There are no summaries. There are no 10 points to do this, then 3 points to do that. The second will be certainly Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. And third will be Carol Dweck's Mindset. Or Susan Cain's Bittersweet. So yeah, Susan Cain's Bittersweet is probably ahead of Carol Dweck's Mindset. But Susan Cain's Bittersweet is difficult to read. It is, there are no lessons shared. There are no stories, or not too many stories. There is no start and end of a story. Like V.S. Naipaul's books, there is no start and end of the story. You may be looking for the climax or something. There is no climax, it just ends. So if you know what I mean, Bittersweet is a tough book to consume, but I will prefer that. If you want a slightly more management lessons kind of book, then The One Thing is a really nice book, very well written. Gary Keller, yeah.
Okay, so Funny Vijay, that book is Some Days Today. So
yeah, today.
Anshuman has indirectly mentioned about book review as well. If you want to get started, that day is today. Get going. You have already got a dosage. Chris was Never Split the Difference and Storyworthy are in line for GRP. So I'm so glad that you chose the books which are in line itself. Mindset is already being read by around 15 readers at this point of time. They are nearly towards the end of this book. So if any one of you would like to connect with Anshuman, I've dropped the LinkedIn link. If you want to read all the summaries that Anshuman has published, the second link is there in the chat. All right, click it on and get onto your browser. And last but not the least, if any one of you would like to connect with me with regards to all things books, reading and habits, feel free to connect in. It's 20:05, right? Not on time when we started off. So thank you so much for sparing an hour and listening to this. At 8:30, that is another 24 minutes from now, you'll get an automated message seeking for your feedback, as well as any suggestion you have for me to build on these series of workshops. So if you want someone to come and help you with any particular thing with regards to reading, books, or even habits, just share it across. And I'll be more than happy to get the best person to deliver that value to you. That's it for us today. Thank you so much, Anshuman, for sharing a brilliant session on writing book reviews. I know the answer that you gave for me to overcome the imposter syndrome, and I'm never going to forget that. And I'm definitely not going to let that thought come into mind as I publish my book review in this upcoming week.
That was only for you. The other 22 were 3 people were audience for that.
Yes. Thank you so much, Anshuman, for delivering a value-added session. I hope all of you also enjoyed it. If you did enjoy and you want to share it on social media, on LinkedIn in particular, just tag Anshuman and me, and we'll be more than happy to read and share it across the network. Thank you so much for joining in. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Aniket. Thanks, Anshuman.
Sure. Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.